Oh, attackers, go on. Joe and Andrade. What a goal.
And again, Gabby Fernando on the 6-yard line. 99th minute. 9 minutes of injury time, and Gabby has won it for Stretford Paddock.
Shot on goal. Oh! Wow!
And that is that. Stretford Paddock, first piece of silverware. Tony Downs Memorial Trophy.
Hello, and welcome to the Stretford Paddock Fans Podcast. We are 2 games into the new season, and in this episode we'll be reviewing both of Paddock's matches so far, looking ahead to the weekend's away trip to Billinge, and a quick roundup of all the latest from around Cheshire League Division One. Joining me this week, as always, is Stu. Evening, Stu.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Chris and Craig. Special guest, sorry, Chris. Lovely to be here and up the paddock. Sorry.
I don't know what to say now. I was going to say, I'm making his return to the pod. We've got the club chairman himself, Craig, who's already been introduced. But hello, Craig.
Hello, fellas. Hello, everyone.
All right, gents. Well, we've got lots to cover. So we're 2 games in, 2 wins, 6 points, top of the league. Although I'm sure by the time I edit this pod, we won't be. But on paper, that sounds like a very smooth and straightforward start to life in Division One. But anyone who's watched the games, and all 3 of us have watched both games, we know it's been anything but comfortable at times. So let's get into it. Let's kick things off with the season opener. Stu, you were there at Hyde, first game of the new season. We were home to newly relegated Winstanley Warriors. We won 3-2. We took the 3 points. But how did you see it?
Look, yeah, like you say, a bit of an unknown. Newly demoted from the Premier Division in Winstanley. You never know what you're going to get. Have they strengthened? We knew what they looked like on paper, through goal difference, etc. But you drop down a division, and you never know that they might just get a second wind, lease of life, and looking for go straight back up. But so we really didn't know what we were walking into, really. But Paddock, in all fairness to us, the lads made a flying start, didn't they? In the match, went 2 goals to the good really quickly. In their first game in Division One in our history, through a Joe penalty and then a Sam Pratt, high pressured deep in their third, off of a goal kick sort of goal. Thought he'd taken it a bit wide at first when he nabbed it off the goalkeeper's toe, but was able to convert it, which was quite nice. Some real standout performances from that game, which was nice to see. It was great to see Sam Walker still starting in the 11 at centre back. He had a good pre-season, and it was great to see him be confident, measured, good decision making, commanding in the air, great in the tackle. It was a shame about the 140-yard effort on goal that slightly tainted the performance, but he got a worthy man of the match. He was absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure that Craig will probably go into how he played last night in a little while.
Sorry, Stu, did you say a 40-yard effort on goal? I think that's generous.
Isn't
it in the
was it a bit further, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was a bit further, Stu.
A bit further. It's probably about 40 yards wide and over as well, wasn't it? It's under the airport, maybe.
Yeah, I think the only thing that threatened, it wasn't the goal. I think it was the pigeons on the roof at the stand.
Claire was worried about our balls and having to replace one again.
Yeah.
So no, good job from Sam Walker, and he started the season strong, like he played in pre-season. So if he keeps that going, I can't see him getting moved out of the starting 11. He just needs to maintain that decision making. He needs to try to go against his instincts for the cross field balls. The big diags, and keep it simple. I think that's been the key to opening up his game as a starting 11 player. And if he keeps doing that, then I think that he'll make that centre back spot his own next to Michael O for this season.
Pick at that thread a little bit then, Craig. What did you make of Sam's performance? Because he got man of the match, which I agree with. I did watch the game twice. But Craig, what did you think of Sam's performance?
Yeah, Sam was good. Sam surprised me, to be honest, in that first game.
Yeah.
Like Stu said, some of his decision making at times where, he wants to hit the 40, 50 yard diagonal ball or send one, through a channels. But, he does tend to overhit, the long balls. When we're not a long ball side, if he just does his job, breaks the attack up, wins the ball, feed the midfield. There's enough quality in that midfield that'll pick a pass out through the channels. Feed it to Joe, to Zach, or in the Winstanley game, Mike Taylor, and they'll find the pass. His job's done. He's stopped the attack and he's put us back on the attack. He doesn't need to be thinking of, Ronnie's free, Joe was free. Let the other lads think of that one. Just do his job, and like Stu said, he will keep his place. If he starts losing his head and hitting it from 40 plus yards and hitting the old Steve Gerrard Hollywood ball, then I know what our Steve's like. He'll bring him off.
I agree.
He wants defenders. He wants a defender to defend and give it.
And from that first game, Sam's excellent at that. You can see, I think he won every header, almost every tackle. And if he can just stick to that part of his game, and like you say, then play the ball simple once he's won it back, then he's going to take some shifting out that team is effective.
I mean, going just to elaborate a little bit more on Stu, the first 20, 25 minutes against Winstanley was brilliant. It was quick. It was aggressive. And then we go 2-0 up. And whether it's a mindset thing, we just stopped playing. We got through to half time pretty much unscathed. Start of the second half, they come right at us. We give them a couple of opportunities that they didn't take at the end of the first half. All right, we scored again pretty early in the second half, make it 3-0. But that 3-0 only lasted for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was quite literally from the kickoff, wasn't it? We went 3-0 up, Cam scored, and then we were 3-1 before everyone had sat back down.
Yeah, within I don't know, 20, 30 seconds, it was 3-1. Then you had the mistake off Michael, and then you're in a battle. Then it was nervy. We was looking, myself, Stuart, and the lads on the sideline. We was looking for the final whistle. What time we got, how long have we got? Because it was nervy, that first game.
Stu, why do you think that is? So we went 3-0 up, conceded that goal for 3-1, and I agree with everything Craig just said. First 30 minutes, we were brilliant. Like, we were on it, we were aggressive, we were tenacious, we were great in possession, patient, we were winning the ball back. As soon as it went 3-1, we were on the back foot. Do you think it is a mentality thing? Do you think it's a fitness thing, being the first game of the season? Like, the whole game shifted on that moment when it went 3-0, 3-1 in the second.
I don't think it's a fitness thing. I don't think we can use that as an excuse. I think it more than likely is a mentality thing where you're 2-0 up against a team that don't look like they're really turned up, and they're there for the killing, not really threatened us on goal, not really pressured as much, easy to deal with in the first half an hour. And despite the sideline, Craig, Steve, Lee, Mick, all saying, it's not over yet. Come on, we've got to keep going, find that next goal, got to really kill this off. Maybe, I'm not going to accuse them of doing it, but from the sideline, it felt as though they underestimated, and they shouldn't have done that. And we got the third goal, but quite quickly we're pegged back to 3-2, and it could have, on another night, ended up with us losing two points, which in this league is going to make a big difference down the line. Certainly against Winstanley, it felt like after half an hour, we felt as though this was going to be a doddle, and the game was won.
The thing is, when you look at the start of the game, the first 30 minutes, it was quite. I mean, I try and be balanced on here as much as possible, but objectively, we were so much better than them. Like, we weren't sure what to expect with a team coming down from the Premier Division, and they looked no better than what we'd faced in Division Two, certainly for that first half. And then we made them look very good second half. Like we it's early days in the season, we don't know where they're going to finish, but based on that first half, like you would have them in the bottom half comfortably. But we almost shot ourselves in the foot and let them back into the game. And we made them look like a team that are, really good on the ball and full of energy. And, they were powerful and aggressive. And this team wasn't there in the first half. And it just shows what can happen if you take your foot off the gas. But we got away with it. We won 3-2.
I think with that, again, like a mental attitude, we went 2-0 up that quick. And we were even on the sideline. You was hearing little snippets of conversations between our lads. Sort of along the lines of, "These are Premier League. They're not that good." And someone else will say, "Yeah, that's why they're playing us now because they're not in the Premier League anymore." Come on, keep your foot down. But there was, you was getting that conversation where, we're 2-0 up now. As though, it's job done. It's job's finished. But like you both just said, it's not the case. I think there's too many players there over the last couple of games and not quite there yet. But the rest of them are pulling them through. And the good thing is they've pulled them through 2 games and we've got 6 points. They can only get better as the weeks progress. I mean, this next fortnight, we've got 4 games, 5 games, 5 games. We've got Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we'll have one of the weekend. So we've got 5 games in the next fortnight. That'll show us where we are.
It's always really interesting this part of the year, isn't it? Because no one knows. Like everyone's just speculating who's the favourites, who are the strongest teams. We do it on the pod every week, don't we, Stu? But like we have no idea.
Yeah.
So give it 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll start seeing like who's good and who's bad, and we might not have a clue. Probably true. We don't have a clue. We just guess.
I think it's because of the timing of the way Rob does it with the Cheshire League. I think you've got to look to sort of mid-September before your teams either start getting the proper full 11 that the coaches want, because any given week you could have lads missing.
Stu, have you got anything more to add on the Winstanley game before we move on?
Yeah, probably just to finish off, I'll sandwich it. I'll do a leadership thing and do a sandwich. So I think like Craig touched upon, there was some defensive errors that almost cost us in that match. I think both goals were because we weren't quite switched on enough. We made our own error, and then maybe we allowed them to press us slightly too hard at one point, and we need to tighten that up if we're going to be successful in this league and challenge for a promotion space. Again, something Craig might touch on from last night's match around the defensive tightening that needs to happen. But just to, like I say, sandwich that with some positivity, I think Joa looked absolutely immense on the right wing again. I made a point of collaring Ronnie and Joa after the match in the clubhouse and just said, look, Joa, you at the back end of last season, I think, started on the right wing for the final 2 or 3 matches, and you was immense. Twisting fullbacks inside and out. I think he got a couple of goals back end of last season, a couple of assists, and he's carried that on into this season. But in that first match, that first half an hour, he was unplayable on the right hand side. And then Joe and Ronnie switched, and then we kind of lost our impetus. And I said to them after the match, Joe, you're absolutely incredible on the right hand side. Why have you switched there? And they said because Joe prefers the left hand side, and they tried to keep freshening it up. But I I just made sure that they knew from my perspective as a supporter, as a fan watching the game from the side of the pitch, I can't see anything but positivity from Joe being on that right-hand side. And for me, that needs to continue.
And it's not about Joe and it's not about Ronnie. It's
Mm,
Joe had their fullback on toast for 25 minutes. It was our
yeah.
biggest threat. It was our outlet, and then they switched it and we lost it. Like we never got that kind of momentum back again once they changed.
They did switch back at the start of the second half. All right, if you remember, Stu, I got hold of Joe as he was leaving the pitch at half time. I said, "You've got to swap back." I said, "Ronnie can't get past the fullback," and he
Yeah.
just started laughing because he like you just said, he had the fullback on toast all for half an hour, and then they switched, and Ronnie just kept on getting blocked off. He couldn't get past him, couldn't get round him.
For two players that have very similar like attributes, they're both very skillful. They've got a good touch. They're fast. They play completely different. Like Joe is always looking for that ball over the top. He's always looking to turn the defender. Whereas Ronnie will always want to come to feet, and Ronnie will always want to beat them with a trick or to slow the game down and then beat them with an explosion of pace or acceleration. But it's you can just tell that on that occasion the way Joe played was the way to unlock that defender, and once they switched, it was never the same.
No, nothing like the same. But we got there. We got there in the end.
All right, Craig, fresh in the memory from last night. We got our second 3 points of the season. Looks comprehensive, 4-2 win. It wasn't as comprehensive as the result may seem at times. How did you feel the game went yesterday from your perspective?
I thought we wasn't clinical. We moved it around well and made chances. And like I said, we're just not clinical enough. That, like you mentioned before, Chris, that could have been easily 4 or 5, even 6 by half time. But you give teams hope. The more chances you're missing, they're still in there. They're still in with a shot. And then a mistake from Michael, and their lad took it brilliantly. That was a cracking goal for their first goal. And then you're fighting. And like Stu just said there's players there now within that group that will pull the socks up, get amongst the rest of the players and G them up, get them on the case and get them back competing. But I think when it got to 2-2, that could have gone either way at 2-2. I think we'd have been struggling if they'd have got another one. But as it was, Noah popped up at the back post and stuck that one in. And then you had that fantastic goal off Leland. Again, made by another youngster in Kiefer, winning the ball and bringing it out of our box.
And I think really, Craig, that was the story of the game, wasn't it? Like the kids. And I think it's probably a nice point to raise, as we just mentioned Gibbo in the first game, but it was his young crop of talented players that have come through and almost saved our arse yesterday with the game. We had, like you said, goals from Noah, goals from Leland, an assist from Kiefer. And Stu, I want to talk to you about Dylan, who earned his first start yesterday. Wasn't just shoved in at left back in the Gary Neville kind of right back, anyone can play fullback role. He was at number 10 and he was brilliant, wasn't he?
He was outstanding. Behind the scenes, behind the podcast and everything, there's we have chats and stuff, and I was a bit hesitant about Dylan. I'm going to call myself out and say I was a little bit concerned that Dylan had got his start ahead of the likes of Cam going into that 10 or whoever, and Hugo at right back. When you first see the team sheet, you think, "Oh, was that the correct decision?" And to be fair to Steve Harris, he said Dylan had more than earned his starting position from the friendly that we played at the weekend. So Dylan didn't half make me eat my words because it was absolutely amazing. He didn't just turn up and fill a position. He turned up and he owned it. He was the best player in the park by an absolute country mile. And there wasn't anything the lad couldn't do last night. He was excellent under pressure. some of the passes in the channel were absolutely extraordinary. Joa will have kicked himself for not getting a hat trick last night. The amount of times that Dylan put that ball on a plate for him, and I think that Dylan's probably the only name on the team sheet straight away for the next fixture, because I don't know how you drop somebody who has a game of that sort of standard.
Yeah, I concur with that. I just thought his positional play, his awareness, his weight of passing, his ability to play off one touch was just something that we didn't have in the first game. It definitely wasn't evident in the first game beyond the first 30 minutes. So yeah, I thought he had a really, really good debut. And I wasn't at the game yesterday, but I did watch it on Twitch, and I've never seen so many like flame emojis in the chat, because he was just fantastic yesterday. And we forget he's an under 17, so he's still learning and he's still going to get better. So yeah, well done, Dylan. We also had a comment to the Instagram channel giving a shout out that Kiefer did really well when he came on. Do you want to guess who sent me that?
Go on.
On Instagram.
Yeah, it was Kiefer.
Mary.
So Kiefer gave himself a shout out for having a really good game.
Yeah, that's something Kiefer would do.
Craig, what did you think of what did you make of the kids who came on? Because it's been some journey really from joining the Paddock county champions last year in the under 16s, and then we finished the game yesterday with like 3 or 4 kids essentially in the team.
Like Stu said, you can't argue against Dylan's inclusion. You see a team sheet, Dylan's in it. As long as he's got, the likes of Zach and Joe to win the ball and feed him, or, even KO'd in there, Cam in there, Dylan will find a pass. Like Stu just said there, his first time, his one-touch stuff, he knows where that ball's going. It's like Scholes. He knew, he was looking left to receive a ball. He knew where it was going, down that right-hand side. And Dylan was the same last night. He was putting balls through, splitting the centre-back and the full-back for Joa. Some of the seasoned players wouldn't have even seen that ball. They'd have wanted to put the foot on it. But he's competing in Division One of the Cheshire League against some big lads in the centre midfield. And Dylan's 8, 9 stone wet through. But it don't matter, because you can't get him off the ball. They was trying all sorts last night. They just couldn't get him off the ball. And it's not that he goes on mazy runs or he'll shield the ball until he sees his pass, and then he'll let the pass. Yeah, he was unreal last night, Dylan. He was like Stu just said, he was unplayable. When Noah came on, and then you had the two of them operating in the midfield, it was a double act. They was looking for each other, they was laying it off for each other, but they had an end product. They was giving it out wide to Ronnie, giving it out wide, to Cam, because Cam was making runs late on in the second half. They was finding end products all the time. Kiefer, when he came on, that fullback must have been having nightmares, because he just got rid of Ronnie, and now you have Kiefer running at him, and he didn't have a clue. He couldn't catch him, and that led to Leland's goal, because Kiefer had won it on the edge of our box and set off with it, and there was no blue shirt chasing him. He couldn't catch him, and then he just laid the ball perfect into Leland's path. Now, you'd expect a kid running in on goal. All right, he's got a defender, centre half running next to him, trying to catch him. Do you think they'd panic, and it end up over the bar, or they misskew it, or whatever? No, he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he buried that, absolutely buried it. And myself, Stu, Mick, Steve Harris, all the ones that was on the sideline was unbelievable for him. Really, really pleased for him. You probably heard it on the Twitch. I think he was pleased with himself as well.
I was going to say, I don't think Leland's ever panicked about anything in his life, has he? By the sounds of it, he seems like a pretty assured kid. He knows what he can and can't do.
Well, he's very confident.
Yeah,
he's very, very, very confident. I mean, he does get in scrapes. You know, he's not frightened. He's going up against seasoned, you know, in some respects, ex-pros, some of them. And, you know, if you're going to kick him, expect one back because you'll get one back. And this kid's just turned 16. Well, he's got some build on him as well. You know, he's not frightened to put himself about.
What I will say as well, Stu, is Leland's goal, it wasn't straightforward. He still had a lot to do. So Kiefer played the ball through to him. He still had to get onto that loose ball. He still slowed the defender down, muscled him, and then buried it in the bottom corner. Like that was, you know, I think that will be a very, when we do goal of the season, end of the year, it won't win, but it should be on the list for me. I think it was a very underrated goal. He still had so much to do.
Yeah, he did have loads to do. He picked up about 25, 30 yards out. He had to beat that defender who wasn't slow by any means. And the keeper who actually, their Wythenshawe keeper was good at narrowing down the angles and stuff through the match. So he really had a really narrow pocket to slot that ball home. But I think one of the things that I said last night in the group chat was when you had Noah, Leland, Dylan, Kiefer on, it was about the synergy between the four of them. How fluid and it was because they've been playing together for years. The relationship is there. It's almost second nature to them where each other's going to be, and that synergy. I bet it was probably even better from watching on Twitch actually from that slightly higher view, and you can see the movement, the passing, the one touch passing between them, and cutting the defense open. But really impressed by all four of them last night. I'd love to see a little bit more of Kiefer. If we can, I think that the key is for us to kill off matches earlier so that people like Kiefer, Leland can get on with 25, 30 minutes to go and get more minutes. That would be the key for me. But last night didn't sound each other and the club proud. Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said there, Stu. I think the big difference, and we've not only seen it this year in last night's game where they've all played, but last year the tempo doesn't drop. If anything, the tempo increases when them kids come on. You know, the whole speed of the match it just changes, and it changes. You know, in that last 10 or 15 minutes when your opposition are running out of juice, and you throw these 16, 17-year-olds on with all the energy in the world, and defences can't handle it. They just can't. They no answer. You know, try fouling them and everything else. But the tempo is unreal when them kids come on. And fair, you know, like Chris said before, fair play to Gibbo. You know, he's brought these lads up into adult football. I just hope we can keep a couple of them for a couple of seasons because they're good enough. They're good enough to play at a higher level.
I remember you saying on the first pod you joined last season, Craig, like some of them are that good that once they start playing for our first team, it won't be long before the bigger fish are going to start having a look.
Well, I'm surprised. I'm shocked, not surprised that Dylan is still around. Dylan is the main one. I'm surprised no one from a lot higher level hasn't come and snapped him away from us.
Did you guys have anything else you wanted to cover in this game? Obviously, I want to talk about Danny's injury, but apart from that,
that was bad. I mean, hopefully it's not as bad as we thought. Like Stu was saying before, they think it could be muscle instead of a ligament. He's still going to be out for a long time.
I spoke to Joe Coleman actually today, and he went to the hospital with Cougs after the injury, and they said they don't know exactly what it is, so they don't know exactly what he's done to his knee, but it's not ligaments. So that rules out the worst case scenario, but it could be a very bad sprain. It could be muscular damage. It could be a small fracture, something like that. But yeah, it's still not good, and it's still going to be a while on the sideline to heal up, rest up, rehab, and get himself back playing again. But we do wish him the best.
Certainly.
We do. Just to throw a bit of a tangent on the things there, Chris. I think it's important for any of our players or any players that are listening, who are playing at any sort of level. It's important to get yourself insured. You don't know when these sorts of things happen. They happen in a split second. They're unavoidable most of the time. And you love what you do as players. We love watching what you do. But the last thing we want to see is people get injured and then suffer, not being able to work, not being able to support their families, whatever it might be. And really, it's our assistant coach, Josh, who brought this up today in a group chat. And it's an important message to put out there that whilst you love what you do, you need to make sure that you're also covered. And the last thing we want to see you do is not just suffer from not being able to play the beautiful game that you enjoy, but also suffer then in your personal life because you're struggling with being able to go to work or being able to do whatever it is, pay your bills and things like this. So please think about getting yourself insured. I just want to put that message out there while we're talking about it. But again, the important thing as well is, like Chris said, is everybody wishes you well, Dan.
Yeah, well said, Stu.
All right. Well, that's covered our start to the season. Not as simple as it seems as we've gone into it, but we are played 2-1-2, so we've got away with it. Next up, we have Billinge, who I know very little about, as is the case with many of the new teams in this division, as we've not been here before. But guys, if you could change anything about ourselves, what would you change from the first two games for Saturday's away game against Billinge?
Take your chances. It'd have to be the first one. Take your chances. Play it simple. Like you said, we don't know anything about them. And if we play to Paddock's strengths, like we said earlier on, the defenders win the ball, feed the midfield, let them do the thinking. We'll get chances, but we need to take them. If anything, I'd like to see Danny Yu go in the back four and a spot for Cam in the midfield. I think with his engine, the lad can run all day. And he adds that little bit of steel with Joe in the middle. I don't know if Dylan's available at weekend. If he is, like Stu said, the kid's undroppable. I don't know if you could change that. They'd be the only changes for me. I do like Cam in the midfield. Yes, he's a yellow card waiting to happen, but I think you know what you get.
I said similar to Stu yesterday. I think both of us have agreed, actually. We both said we'd love to see Cam in the middle, but when Cam has a quieter game, like perhaps he did last night, because I know he took a knock very early on, he's still a 7 out of 10. Like, even on his weaker days, he's an asset. He gives us something. He never has a poor game. He either has a good game or he has a great game. So, yeah, I'd love to see Cam in that midfield. Stu, would you make any changes, or what changes would you make ahead of the Billinge game on Saturday?
I'm not too sure I'd make many changes. I think the hot topic was where would you play Cam if Hugo's playing it right back, and Craig's covered that. So not got much else to add into there, to be honest with you, Chris. But as you know, I'm the data statistic kind of guy. Let's just throw some at everybody while they're listening. So Billinge obviously finished 10th last season, -8 goal difference, won 11, lost 14, drew 5. I found it really interesting because when I was looking through their players, Alex Bacon, who got 14 goals in 24 appearances last season, isn't registered. It's not on the site from what I can see. And James Howard, their second top goal scorer, who got 10 in 21, is also not registered for this season. And of course, they got smashed 9-0 by Sam Batch-Rezzies in the opener. They were 1-0 down earlier tonight against Claybrow, so I'm not too sure it would have changed much from that. To be honest, I'd be surprised if they got anything out of Claybrow this evening. But they were 1-0 down against Claybrow tonight. So I expect us to go out and get another 3 points. Am I being overconfident? Maybe. The lads have got a lot of work to do. We've got to tighten up the defence, that's for sure. But I think we've started really strongly by getting six points in six, and build some confidence and momentum into that game against a team that who look like they're struggling a little bit at the start of the season.
I think I'd make two changes, and it wouldn't be a different team to what you both said, but I would I'd stand the whole game on the pitch next to Sam Walker and tell him he's not allowed to pass to anybody except the central midfielders. So, do you remember? I think it was a couple of years ago. Steve used to make this joke to Zach that if he gave the ball away 3 times, he's coming off. And I think last year he used to tell Teo if he doesn't stay out wide and stretch the defence, he's coming off. I think he just needs to do that with Sam. If he just said to Sam, "Look, you're amazing in the air, you're great in the tackle, win the ball back and then lay it off simple, and you'll never get dropped again," because that is, he's a real asset if he does that. And then the other one is Ronaldo. Just look for those balls over the top. Like, look at Joa on the other side, always on the shoulder of the last man, always looking at the space in behind. We know Ronaldo's a gifted player. We know he gives us that. If he could just, instead of offering himself short, which defenders love because they're facing the play, if he could just stretch the pitch on both sides, I think it could be really effective. But yeah, Stu, the data guy, you know a lot more about Billings than I do. But yeah, they didn't have a fantastic first game of the season. If you ship 9 goals, then you obviously got some problems to fix as well. So we're not alone. Like, we're all new into this league and into the new season, and we're all trying to find out what works for us and get some balance and some shape and get the right people in the right positions. Looking around the league more generally, guys, a weird set of results at the weekend. I think that's probably the best way to describe it, but some absolute cricket scores being flying around the league. I think, well, as you mentioned earlier, Craig, St Helens put 8 past Wythenshawe. Sandbach put 9 past Billings.
Yeah.
Winsford scored, was it 6 against Mersey? 5 or 6? I mean,
yeah.
Claybrow scored 6, I think it was. Have we got a good idea already of who's going to be up there, do you think? Or do you, because Craig, I know you mentioned you need mid-September, but when teams are hitting 8 and 9, that's probably a good indication that they're going to be, at the right end of the league come April, May time.
All the sides you've mentioned there, Chris, will be.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about that. St Helens will be there. Clay won't be far away. We know them from a couple of seasons ago. Winsford only just missed out, so they're going to be going in for it. A dark horse, if you like, at the moment, anyway, is Dainton.
Yeah.
I think you flashed something up earlier on that they'd beat Mersey Valley 4-0.
Yeah, 3 wins from 3 for Dayton.
Yeah, and we played them. I'm not sure if it was the start of last season, and I think it was beating them 2-1 at half time, and he literally changed 6 or 7 players at half time, and they absolutely blew us out of the water. I think it ended up 6-2 or 6-3 or something like that. I think they finished mid-table last year. Clay was up there, and Claybrow will be again. There's no two ways about that. Like Stu said, though, if teams are struggling, like your Billings, even Mersey Valley to some degree, by the sound of it, they've shipped some goals in 2 games, but they're an awkward side, Mersey Valley. They could trip some teams up, definitely. As we know from last season.
For me, you mentioned Dayton. They seem to be on the up. Each season they improved. I think they finished 10th a couple of seasons ago, 6th last season. Last season they lost 2 in a row at the start of the season. The season before that, going back a couple of seasons ago, they took about 4 or 5 games to get a win. This season they've started off winning 2 and 2.
That's 3 now. 3 after tonight.
3 and 3. So they're on the up. They're on the rise. They seem to be improving every year, similar to us, I guess, in Division 2 for the last few years, and finally getting the promotion. So probably someone who's gonna be pushing to improve on that again this year and really try to go for that second spot. I don't know if they'll compete for winning, but I'm sure they've got that mentality to try and win. But again, another surprise for me is Mersey Valley losing 6th one against Winsford, someone who they only played season before last. So to see the golf in that scoreline was really surprising, I think, to everybody, to be honest. And then they've lost again tonight, 4-0 against Dayton.
Yeah.
It's that third game that you're on about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for them to ship 10 goals in 2 games, that's probably one of the biggest surprises for me.
And then
Yeah,
Sandbach put 9 past Billinge and then played tonight against Congleton reserves and drew 0-0. So I don't know what happened to their goal scorers from the weekend, but they must have caught a curse over the midweek games.
But we've got Congleton next week, haven't we, at Hyde?
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
I always find it really bizarre in the Cheshire League since I've started following it, but the midweek games, they always throw up a surprise, or the form book goes out of the window. It's like a cup tie. It's like you play midweek and you don't know who's there. You don't know what the availability of your players are. And for some reason, you just get weird results that just kind of go against the form book.
Let's get Saturday out of the way first, and then we can look at midweek.
Yeah, interestingly, Craig, you mentioned Clay will be up there, and we also both spoken about Dayton. If you remember in the last episode, we asked for our predictions, and Notch backed both of those two to be the top 2 at the end of the year. So Notch knows.
No, I remember from, like say, 2 years ago, we had 2 proper battles with Clay Brown, 2 proper games of football. I mean, they was unbeaten when we went to Skelmersdale to play them, and Joe Coleman scored the winner.
I remember
that. The attendance that day was the 6th highest in non-league football in the country. We had 300 and something people. It was hanging off the netting. It was a massive crowd. Majority was theirs. There was about 20 of us, but yeah, it was on the list of the non-league attendances.
Yeah, I remember that game. It was before we got the video camera, but we used to get the highlights on YouTube, and I could tell from being at home, like the tension of that game. I think we won 2-1, didn't we? I think Ryan
was unreal
from a goalkeeping mistake, and then they equalised. Yeah. They should have had a penalty, and they didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh, that last 20 minutes of that game, that lives in the memory. That, a winter's night, absolutely freezing, and the last 20 minutes was like the animal. How they didn't score. I mean, they hit everything. They hit bar. They should have had a penalty. I think we cleared one off the line. It was the first time they'd been beat all season, and that was December.
We then beat them at our place as well. I remember Callum scored a couple of good goals. That's when Gav injured himself and went to hospital. And their guy injured himself. They ended up in the same hospital together. I remember that. But we took 6 points and then we didn't go up and they did.
Well, Brown, as a live update, have just contacted me. And there's a few minutes left to go in that match tonight. And they're winning 6-0 at home. So their supporters will be very happy. And they're playing Billinge, who we play on Saturday. So Billinge are taking a bit of a murder in tonight.
That's 15 goals Billinge have shipped in 2 games. So they'll probably beat us on Saturday. That's how it works.
No. Don't be like that. Don't be like that now, Chris. Yeah, we don't need the kiss of death. We can miss our own.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up with this question, which you'll both try not to answer, but I'd like to put you both on the spot before we finish. So where are we now, really, in terms of Division One? How strong is our team compared to all the others? Like, are we a mid-table side? Are we a top 2 side? Are we a top half side? I'll go to you first, Stu.
Craig was about to jump in there and say, skin there, having to go first. But Chris can see me thinking. He's like, I'm going to put him on the spot. I said last podcast, be fearless. I was a bit of a hypocrite then. I see us chasing promotion this season. I think that the fixtures for September will be something that we all keep an eye on, because I think we're going to start seeing some, Paddocks against Winsford and Clay Brown, and Edgerton against Dayton, etc., starting to crop up, and that's when, come the end of September, we're going to start really seeing some shape take form. So I think we will be right up there challenging for promotion.
Do you agree, Craig?
I'd like to say yeah, but at the minute, I would be happy if we finish in the top half.
Well, that's even more pessimistic than me, Craig.
I'm looking at, I think, a few of the sides that we've been talking about. I think they're a bit further along in their preparation or performance than we are at the minute. So I'd be happy with it. This season a top half, cement your place in the division, and then go for it.
I was talking to Liam, who does our commentary, yesterday, and I said if we finish fourth this year, I think that's about par. I think in terms of there are some teams in this league which are more experienced and, let's just say backed better than Paddock are, and they will be expecting to be in those top two spots. I think we need to be in the conversation, but there's no real pressure on us to, finish in the top two. But yeah, I think we'll comfortably finish top half.
Before Steve went to America, we had a bit of a party here, and he just said, "Well, what do you think?" And I said exactly the same. I'd be happy with this season, stay in the division, cement your place in the division, top half, but I want to win the Manchester FA Cup. He said, "Oh, just the one, like." I said, "Yeah, that one. That's the one I want." We've been close. We've been close a couple of times. We've got semi-finals. We've got the quarter-finals.
Yeah.
I'd just like to, I'd like that one.
We beat De La Salle in the final because we owe them one. I think they've beaten us the last 3 times.
I don't think they're. I don't think they're in it. They weren't in it last year because they got promoted in the Manchester League.
But so did we. So are we eligible anymore?
Yeah, because the Resi's still playing Langston Cheshire, so the club's eligible. Yeah.
All right, then. Well, we'll take that, Craig. If we can finish top half and win a cup, I think we'll all get a big day out in the cup final again, and not rely on our kids to win all the trophies for us.
Hey, they'll be winning some as well.
All right. Well, we're gonna have a good season then, guys. Maybe that's a good point to wrap up. But Craig, thank you again for joining us on the pod. As always, could listen to you chat all day, but I've got editing to do. But it's good to have you on. Thanks again, Craig.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Chris.
All right, let's wrap it up then. Let's say goodbye first from Stu.
Good night, everyone. Up the paddock.
And goodbye from Craig.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you again soon.
And goodbye from me. Up the paddock.